Hello! So everyone, welcome to the Evil Campaign discussion. It's disgustingly fantastic. We're all very excited because we all love Halloween. And if you don't, I'm so sorry for you. I mean, you probably have your qualms about things, but don't liking Halloween? Really? Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining, and for all the people that have watched, have seen the technical errors and the errors that come on. The funniest thing is when last week I looked super pale and the internet was so bad, the connection, that I looked all pixelated and crazy. Hey, and Tom Sawyer, thank you so much for joining. I saw that you recently were saying you're going to join, and he says, yo, I told you I'd make it. So thank you for joining. And for those that are watching the replay, because most of you will be, because I kind of do the marketing afterwards, and I'm brand new, so let's face it, there's not going to be a bazillion people on right away, but that will change over time. There may be like 10 people on. Anyway, so today I wanted to talk about evil campaigns, and should you run them? Feel free to join in, Tom, if you'd like to. Mr. Sawyer. Don't know whether to say either. Anyway, so here's my thoughts on the whole matter. I was going to go over the manual, you know how player's manual has all the little pages and fun stuff. I'm going to go over that soon, but I feel like since Halloween is approaching and some people are kind of asking the question online, what about evil campaigns and how do you run them properly? Because there's a lot of ramifications that come with running a campaign. So here's for instance, I'm putting one together for kind of a one-off for my group, and I started looking over ideas for it. I was reading Volo's Guide to Monsters and kind of just figuring out things with orcs. So I'm going to have them play as orcs in the whole situation. It's going to tie in to their campaign that they're currently in right now. And the reason why I'm tying it in, not doing a whole campaign, because some people want to do a whole campaign. But if you think about it, how long can a bunch of murder hobos, and if you don't know what that is, murder hobos, if I had editing tools, I'd do it right here. Murder hobos are people that go around and they don't have a home. They just go from place to place killing things for the sake of killing things, which most D&D players are. But in this case, they'd be evil. So you're kind of creating a whole situation that could turn really bad, depending on what you're doing in your evil campaign. But I feel like it got on this live stream. Woo-woo! Good job. Appreciate it, man. Jared, thanks for joining. So we're talking about evil campaigns. So the reason why I'm saying like a one-off might be best for an evil campaign-ish, rather than a whole campaign that stretches for years, is because there's only so much you can do. Now, of course, you don't have to be limited. You can really do a whole like a crime lord type thing and setting up like a Faerun-based crime lord syndicate, and you're trying to take over the Zentarum or like outwit them. And it could be really interesting, but you always have to discuss with your players what they're comfortable with. That's what I've read all over online, and I totally agree with it, because think about this. So say you get into a situation and you are trying to muscle in on some territory. So let's say that it's like some women, some kids have a business of like laundry. I don't know, just something. You don't want to go have your players go murder a bunch of people, because no one's comfortable with that sort of thing. And if you are, then yeah, I don't want to, whatever, do it your own thing, but I couldn't handle that myself as a DM if my players went nuts. So my wife, she teaches kindergarten, and she always said something that was really profound. She said, never give your kids or players in this situation something that you're not okay with. Never give them options that you're not okay with. Don't say, you can have this and have this. If you put people in front of them, your players are going to interact. So be comfortable with what you do and where you put them. And if any of you that are watching disagree or agree or have any thoughts, please join in the discussion. This isn't just me talking. If the more people that come on, I want to be able to communicate with you. And whatever things you want to talk about, I will read them out loud, because sometimes they won't show up in the comments afterward. Anyway, so what I'm planning for mine is, for the whole discussion, I was thinking, well, what can I do? And kind of what we're talking about today is because I've had these issues come up. I'm like, okay, well, how do I put them into a situation? So I've made my campaign, and I'm doing a little video series I'm about to release. Who knows what that means. I'm about to release that talks about my campaign, and if you want to run it, it's going to be fun. But my campaign, it has a lot of influences from Faerun. Even quite frequently, I'll add like the guilds in there that are already in there, and I've talked about it before. But I feel like to run a evil campaign during it might be best, because if I do a one-off, I can tie it into the story and make it like, oh, like this will come up later, an item will show up, and maybe the characters that they play will show up, which I'm planning on doing if they all don't get killed. Depends on what they do. Like, my players are nuts. But I feel like if you add it there, it'll be fun, because then they're able to be a part of something, part of the world, and feel like, yeah, I'm influencing the bad guys and I'm doing the bad stuff, but I don't feel so bad about it because my heroes are going to come in and just wipe these suckers out. And that's fun for me. That's fun for them, because how often do you do that? What do you think about the world's reaction to an evil party? Like how the power that exists in the world try to deal with the evil players, and hold on, I want to finish that, and how harsh the backlash should be. Well, I think that's a good question. You know, when you have players, for instance, if they're, let's just say not orcs in this situation, let's just say they're a bunch of humans, whatever. Okay, so say these humans are, they go and kill someone. They murder a person for probably a petty reason. Let's face it, most of these are going to be kind of comedy. If your groups are anything like my group, is that they'll often bring humor into it, which is great. But that can kind of mess things up when they murder a person. So with your question of how you can help with that, think of it this way. So how do your players get quests? Your players get quests and they go deal with it. So say you murdered someone, or your players did, make another group of heroes, you know? Add these guys to come and attack them and say, hey, you know what, we've heard about these murderers, let's go investigate. So say your guys find out that you're being investigated, what are they going to do to combat that? So kind of have town guards, a militia force, a group of paladins, depending on how evil your guys are, clerics, people coming to snuff you out. If you have a group of demons that are trying to bring back Tiamat or something like that. And, you know, kind of have fun with it. Have a list of, in my opinion, I always do this, I have a list of NPCs, NPC groups, and factions. That way, if something happens, you can just easily say, okay, let's say in a couple days, I'm going to throw this at them. Tom Sawyer says, I think being able to include the different evil alignments could make the evil campaign really interesting, like the chaotic and the message with the, hold on, I gotta finish that, it goes away. Like the chaotic evil messing with the lawful evil's plan. So true. It's like if you threw a Joker at like, let's say Magneto. You know, you have these two characters totally different in the way that they're evil. You have someone who's just all about the chaos and I don't want to discuss these plans. I don't want to make this crime syndicate. I just want to wipe out the enemies and then just we rule it. While meanwhile, this Magneto-ish character who's the brains of the outfit who says, listen, you know, we go killing a bunch of people. We're going to get a bunch of flack for it. You know, create this dynamic. And I think it can happen very naturally. So good question. I feel like it's a good point, because a lot of people, you're going to have different players just like you're going to have different alignments. So I guess that goes into character creation, which is where I wanted to kind of go with this, because I love character creation, if you know me. When you go into your handbook and you start creating a character that's evil, they give you a few examples with the player's handbook of how to do that. Oftentimes an Oathbreaker for a paladin is a good place to start, because someone who's good that goes bad is often one of the worst people, because they feel slighted. They feel this, you know, this angst towards either gods or men or people who've put this on them, who are cursing them because of this. That's a good place to start. Kind of, maybe not steer your characters, but talk to them beforehand and say, what are you interested in the campaign? If I were to throw A, B, C, or D at you, what would you want to create a character as? And let them talk it out. I always say, don't just create a campaign and throw some people at it with some random characters. Make it interesting, because if you have, you know, some people like the really high fantasy where there's the tiefling, elf, dwarf, halfling, and Akrakoa, all these different races all mixed together, but why are they together? It's a good way to do it. One way, you know, rather than starting in a tavern, how adventures typically start, make them start in like a plane of hell, you know what I mean? And all that, you look in the DM handbook, in the guidebook, and it has all the planes. Try to imagine, tell your characters something like this. Say, you are in, I'm gonna look one up. You're in such and such plane, and you're trying to find a way to get out. And they get out, and then they decide that what they're going to do with their lives. Let's say the 9 layers. They're in Avernus. So no planar portals connect directly to the lower levels of the Nine Hells. By Asmodeus' order, as such, the first layer of Avernus is an arrival point for visitors to the plane. Avernus is a rocky wasteland, rivers of blood, and clouds of biting flies. So let's say they were put into some kind of prison there, and they escape and were able to find a portal to the material plane, the normal plane where people play in, and say that they get together because they escape together. That might mesh, because even if they are different races, find a way to put them together rather than just like, hey, you're evil, right? You're evil? Let's go hang out and do evil things. Kind of get the ball rolling before you start, I guess is my little roundabout way of answering that question. If it even answered it. So great questions, by the way. Thanks for joining in the lives, because I've often will be just talking to myself for future playbacks, so it's good to get you guys on there. Anyway, so I guess that's pretty much it where I wanted to cover, but I guess all in all, talk beforehand what you're comfortable with, what level of evil you're with, and kind of what you want as a whole. So throwing in the different lawful, evil, neutral, even maybe throwing a true neutral in there, alignment, talk to one of your players and say, maybe have your character kind of on the fence and just kind of joins in, but kind of keeps the players a little bit more on track rather than a bunch of psychopaths that go around murdering people. Because if you have a bunch of chaotic evils in a group, it can get crazy, and also PvP, which some people are not okay with. I've seen people, and I've actually watched a few things where people will kill each other, player-wise, over an item, and there has to be maybe at least one lawful evil in the group, just like it's always good to have a paladin lawful good in your group, because it keeps you guys a little bit more on track than anyone else. So that's my little 2 cents on the matter. If you have any other questions, you can always post in the comments below. I love answering them. I love all the things that you guys post and comment on. Thank you, by the way, for those that have been joining my Instagram, who have been checking those out, because I post daily, try to, most of the time I do. And you see a little bit of my life versus the ideas I have for digital art that I see, and I create a story out of it. I try to inspire you because I look all over the internet for inspiration. Sometimes I just can't find it, so I'm trying to be a source for it. I'm not trying to be some major famous YouTuber. I just have a lot of fun doing this, and it's enjoyable for me to share what I've really studied, like obsessively so, to share with you. And if you, like I said, any other questions, you can always comment after videos. I get notifications like almost immediately, and I respond to them as soon as I can. But anyway, yeah, that's it. And I think next week is going to be a surprise. I have some things that I'm cooking up, thinking of what we can talk about. I also am probably doing another live this week, so be prepared for that. To be announced. Look at my Instagram and you'll see my stuff when I post it. I have a Facebook, but I don't really like Facebook that much, the algorithms and all the things that they do to mess me up. So those that stuck with on the live, thank you very much. May your rolls always be natural ones, and just make sure they're not natural ones. Have a fantastic day, and thank you so much for joining, and goodbye. I'll talk to you later this week.